Z, on today's show, we're interviewing a man who has coached fighters to 18 combined world championships.
Is that possible?
In the MMA sport, kickboxing,
Wow.
professional boxing.
Unbelievable.
And he shares with us why we shouldn't let other people hold us back. My man, that's a powerful knowledge.
That's a powerful knowledge. And he also talks to us about how to fight through your fears.
He also talks to us about it. He provides us that inside look into the world of boxing, which I couldn't get into, the MMA thing, which I couldn't get into, the kick. Basically, he walks us into violent fighting sports that I wasn't qualified to be in.
I don't know, because they couldn't have a headgear big enough for your head?
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here.
Yes, 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 and yes. Thrive Nation, welcome back to another exciting edition of the Thrive Time Show on your radio and podcast download, and another edition of your audio dojo of Mojo that you go to. Faux Show. Z, welcome back to the Thrive Time Show.
I'm so glad to be back, and I'm so excited about our guest today because I have a big vision dream I want to cast for Trevor. So I'm just telling you, when we're ready for that, this is going to be something. This is going to be something big.
Let me tee up today's guest, okay? This guy has he's a coach. He's coached MMA, kickboxing, and boxing people to a championship. Okay, and so boxers, kickboxers, MMA professionals. He's coached. So he has at least 3 world championships. You know, he's credited for coaching the athlete, but he's done it 18 times.
Wow.
Z, that might be a world record. Trevor Wittman, welcome onto the Thrive Time Show. How are you?
I am wonderful, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, brother, I'm a little bit scared of you because of your sparring skills here. So I'm just going to ask. I'll try not to offend you. I don't want to get drop kicked from Denver. But here we go. How did you get here? I mean, you are now this massive success, 18-time world champion. Where did it start? What was life like growing up for you in Connecticut?
Well, I traveled a lot. So I moved to Connecticut when I was 12 years old. My dad was a store opener for Home Depot, so I did a lot of traveling. And my early life was full of lots of bullying. I was bullied a lot, and so I started in martial arts. And I always loved boxing. Me and my father would watch boxing, and I was always intrigued on how these guys could talk stuff about each other's moms and then go and hug each other after the bout was over. And it just intrigued me. And being bullied, I started in martial arts and would start boxing when I was age 13.
Did you take to the technical aspects of boxing, the skill of it pretty quickly, or was it hard for you to gain? Was it you guys, I mean, just watching, see, when you watch a pro boxer, I mean, it is ridiculous how coordinated and how skilled they are. I mean, did it take you a while to kind of get comfortable, or how long did it take you before you felt like you were, getting your game together?
You know, it's very unique because starting in martial arts or karate, it was all technique and katas and practicing your moves over and over. And I did some point fighting prior to doing boxing. And I got a funny story. I actually went into my buddy's boxing gym and I was watching him spar, and the coach looked over me and asked me if I wanted to do some boxing and maybe do some sparring. And I told him, yeah, I do karate and, maybe at some point. And he said, cool, take this waiver home and have your parents sign it. So I took the waiver home, asked my parents to sign it. My dad refused to sign it. So, being the wild little kid I was, I signed the waiver. And my first experience in the ring, I got in there thinking I was very talented and this good karate guy. I remember lasting about 30 seconds, and I was looking through the ear hole of the headgear when the coach stopped it.
Wow.
And, man, the guy, he just brought it to me. And I don't know if you ever seen Something About Mary, but the time when he brings Brett Favre in and then he steps out the door and he's crying, that was me walking home that day. I was crying, and every time the car went by, I'd toughen up, and then I'd cry as the car went by again. But, when it comes to boxing is just true war. Like you go in there and in the beginning, there's not much technique. It's just really, bite down on your mouthpiece and swing big punches. And I didn't go back to the gym for about a month. I ended up feeling sorry for myself, and I went back. And then my father found out I was doing boxing because he seen in the newspaper that I had won the regionals, and I was doing this all behind his back. And he ended up becoming a big fan of what I was doing and pushing me hard. But kind of funny story. I kind of crossed the line a little bit, started my boxing career.
Tip number 1, sign your own waiver.
Tip number 1 is a juvenile. Yes.
Don't do that.
No, do that.
My
bad. Sorry.
I don't recommend that. Not at all. But
Okay, I'm sorry. Sometimes I take non-tips and turn them into tips. I lost a mega point.
Take back that tip.
Take back that tip, kids. Don't do that. This just in. All right. So my next question here for you, Trevor, is you got to be very good. So how long did it take you to get some traction? Were you 15, 18, 22? How old were you when you started to just get it done?
So I boxed from 13 to 17, and I took a year off after that, but I had close to 100 fights. It was high 80s, and only lost 4 bouts. So I had a very, very good record. I was a very talented kid, and I called it the 3-monther. I'd go in and train for 3 months and have a whole bunch of fights. Because back when I was boxing, I'm 43 now, we would fight 3 times a day in tournament style. And then I'd take 3 months off. So I lacked the consistency, but man, I was super talented, and I felt like I was growing as a fighter. But my real traction and my love for the sport was when I was injured and I actually got to coach and found out what my real passion was giving back. And I never got emotional when I won a fight, but every time my fighters would win, it would bring a tear to my eye. And, man, finding out that helping people get to their goals was something I wanted to do.
So how many, I guess you've had 18 fighters that you've had a chance to coach into a world championship there. Could you maybe share the names of some of these folks for the folks out there? Maybe there's a name that some of our listeners would know, or some of the names of the fighters that you've coached throughout your long career?
Yes, in boxing it was Verno Phillips, J.C. Candello. Kickboxing, Bang Moit is Dwayne Bang Ludwig. In UFC, it was Rashad Evans. I had a chance to work with George St. Pierre. Shane Carwin was one of my champions, Rose Namajunas. But the list goes on. And I've been in MMA for probably the last 12 years, and I've really fell in love with the full aspect of fighting because there's so many different ways it can go.
Yeah, Trevor, so, okay, you're fighting now. You're 17. You take a year off. When did you start becoming a coach and kind of monetizing? And how did that transition happen? I mean, you just saw a buddy in the gym and you said, dude, you're not doing that right. I mean, how did you make that transition? And then when did you start to monetize that? How did that look?
So is when I moved to Colorado, and I was actually going to turn pro, and I was injured in sparring. And I had a punctured lung, and I went seeing a doctor told me I shouldn't box no more, so I didn't really listen to that. I went to another doctor and he told me the same thing. And then, now I'm an older kid, so I'm, taking advice from my parents and asking what they thought, and they were just totally against it. And it was something that I dreamed of, it was my passion, it was what I obsessed. And I was seeing a counselor at the time, and she goes, well, why don't you become a manager? Why don't you do something in the sport? So I decided to pick up some mitts and start holding for other athletes that I was training with, and I just fell in love with it. It's again that it was probably the biggest down part of my life, because again, this is something I look forward to for so long, and then again I found a new love. So I only stayed in that position for a short period of time of the depression of it, but coaching brought me right back out.
Well, that's great. You were given lemons and you just turned them in, made a lemonade out of it. I love that. So how did that work? So you pick up some mitts, you got your buddy out there and he's sparring with you, or he's hitting your mitts, or I'm not sure exactly the terminology of it, but all of a sudden when you're done, you look at him and said, well, that'll be $35, please. I mean, how did you go from just kind of helping buddies out to going, here's a bill, or you want to pay me, or how about a little money, a little something for the effort? I mean, how'd that work?
So I actually started a little gym in my basement, and I started doing it for probably about 6 months, and I was coaching amateurs and taking it to amateur events. So we were competing at an amateur level, and then there was a fighter named Verno Phillips who came into my gym. I now opened a gym and rented out a place, and he was a former world champion. And he came in just to use the gym. And I remember the first day he was in there, I was starstruck. Yeah, I mean, this is a high-level boxer. And about 2 or 3 days after he was in the gym, he asked me to hit mitts with him. And then he comes into my office and he goes, "Hey, are you ready to go to up to Yuma, Washington?" And I said, "For what?" He said, "You're going to be my coach." And my first experience as a professional coach was on ESPN Friday Night Fights main event.
Wow.
And I'll never forget it. I got interviewed by Teddy Atlas. I was nervous. I was stuttering. It was just a funny experience. I kind of laugh at it now. One of the funniest parts about it is Verno's getting ready to walk out, and the TV cameras turn on, and we're getting ready to do our walk. And he turns around and looks at me, and he's like shadowboxing, and he looks at me and he's like, "Yeah, bro, you're gonna do good." And I'll never forget that he told the coach he's gonna do good, and it just cracks me up. But we won a world championship that first year, and it was just a good process, man. Starting young and starting with the world champion as a coach really built my belief in what I was doing and what I could do for other athletes.
Now, I am notorious for doing this there, and if you don't like this question and you hang up, that'll be my code. You didn't like the question, okay? But see, I have some sound effects here that I've queued up. This is without Trevor's permission. Justin Wren, our mutual friend, introduced us, and so I said, "Justin, do you think it's okay if I put microphones all over his office without him asking for the next few months in preparation?" And he says, "Absolutely not." I said, "Okay." So I've got some audio here of what I think was his training session today. And that, Trevor, I'd like for you to explain to me, if this is not your actual audio, I might have the wrong file.
You might have it.
I would like for you to explain to me what you actually do in your training sessions. Well, let me cue it up real quick. This is what I believe to be audio of Trevor coaching an athlete as recently as yesterday. So let me cue it up here. This is... Wait, so let me get it. There it is. Now, this might be Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, or it could be Trevor. Okay, first off, have you ever played Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, the video game? Have you ever played that game?
Yes. And that was actually we were fighting Soto Popinski.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know that.
Oh my gosh.
Let's see if you
I'm
can.
very surprised that you were able to get that.
Well, let me see if I can keep the next one. Let's see if you can tell who this is. Here we go. Let me get this one. Wait a second. Here we go. Who's this?
Is he the heavy set opponent?
Yes.
On Mike Tyson.
This guy's on fire. He does like boxing.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, and I have one more audio clip, and Justin said...
Stepping him on a video game. That's pretty good stuff.
Now, Justin Wren, he said, listen, I met Justin Wren because he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and I was crazy enough to reach out to Justin. Now he's spoken at our conferences, yada, yada. Anyway, Justin Wren, he's sort of a big deal. This is the audio, and Justin said, do not, whatever you do, do not play this sound clip while you're interviewing Trevor, to which I said... So anyway, let me cue it up. Let me cue the audio. This is what Justin promised to have. People said, "Please promise you won't play this," and I said, "I can't say that." So here we go. This is what I got.
I want you to try. Listen to me. I want you to try to chase this little chicken.
Now this is Trevor Wittman coaching his client earlier this morning.
What am I chase a chicken for? It's embarrassing, you know. First, because I said so. And second, because chicken chasing is how we always used to train in the old days. Yeah. You catch this thing, you can catch grease lightning. Ready?
Yeah, well, I'd rather eat it than chase it. It ain't very mature.
Now, okay, so do you do the chicken chasing method, or talk to us? What do your coaching sessions look like?
Yeah, so Mick from Rocky is a big inspiration. And hey, if you're chasing chickens, you can catch a chicken. You got to ask Justin Wren about this. Rampage Jackson on season 10, when I met on The Ultimate Fighter season 10.
Yeah.
Justin Wren was on that season when I met him, and Rampage played a goof on us and put chickens in our car, and we actually got to chase chickens, and it was the hardest thing ever. Trying to catch those chickens was nuts. We let them out of the car in Vegas, and they were so hot. We were trying to corner them so we could get them all grouped up and get them sent back to wherever you got them. But I'll never forget chasing chickens. You got to have good footwork to catch a chicken.
And tell us what show that was you were on for the listeners out there that aren't familiar with that show.
That was the Ultimate Fighter season 10, Rashad Evans versus Rampage Jackson, and that's when I met Justin Wren. Was on that season. I had the opportunity to work 3 Ultimate Fighter seasons: season 17 with Shane Carwin, and then also season 23 with Justin Gaethje, my current athlete.
So when you're not playing Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, chasing chickens, or coaching world-class athletes, tell us about OnyxSports.com. What is OnyxSports.com?
So it's a company that I started, and it all started by need. I actually borrowed my mom's sewing machine and started making equipment because the equipment that's being manufactured at the moment just wasn't holding up. So I reverse engineered some mitts, and they don't have left and right mitts, which is just crazy to me because the left hand and the right hand's totally different. And I got smaller hands, so I was always trying to squeeze and hold the mitts from flying off. So I started making my own mitts, and I brought them into the gym. And I have about 15 coaches at my gym at that time, and 10 of them wanted mitts. So I sold 10 products within probably a week. And they loved them. And when I was at different events in the locker rooms warming my guys up, my network of coaches and brothers in the industry would say, "Where'd you get those?" And I ended up becoming about a year behind on making custom equipment for people. And I realized that this is a real thing, that people are needing premium equipment in the combat sports world.
Trevor, growing up, boxing was the thing, right? For me, I'm 54 years old, and I mean, boxing, that's what it was about. And then all of a sudden, it kind of switched over. I don't know how many years ago exactly, but this MMA, just roared up. I mean, it just became very popular. Now, I'm sure it's $1 billion business and $1 billion industry, right? I mean, that thing is just crazy now, right? Almost took boxing to the back shelf a little bit, almost. And now we have this kickboxing. We have different variations of the MMA and all that, the octagon and all that kind of stuff. But yeah. I've got something I wanted to talk to you about. It's a business idea, business plan that I think could be $1 billion industry. And I just wanted to share it with you and nobody else, because I figure you being on the inside, we could be on the ground floor.
Well, let me. We have about 500,000, about 500,000.
Well, they're not going to pay. They're all on break right now.
Ninja listeners.
Ninja. Oh yeah.
Just mute it down real quick.
Mute it
down. Mute it down. We don't have to get physical with you guys. We want to make sure we keep this secret.
Physical.
Okay, so I think we're ready now.
Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about starting a world league of just donkey kicking. In other words, it's 2 guys fighting, and all they're doing, the only move you could do is a mule kick or a donkey kick. And that's it. The whole fight, and it's called and we have a really cool looking donkey as a logo.
I think you're into something. Why would you not watch that? I mean, that is entertaining at the fullest.
Yeah.
I've always thought about doing something called Tuesday Night Pimp Fight. And you're only allowed to use the open palm, and you get to put a little bit of baby powder on the hands. Whoever ends up with the most baby powder on the face wins. Or loses because we got too much baby powder from getting pimp-handed. There's many different. We should probably talk after this interview and see what we can do, bring some more entertainment.
I mean to tell you now. Come on.
See, I have audio of your first pilot of your donkey kicking challenge.
Yeah.
Tell me if this is the right clip. I think I have it. I have it ready.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Let me.
I hope so.
Just a second here. Let me see.
What?
a lot of metal there.
What? It's not. This isn't sword fighting.
What could they possibly be doing with that donkey?
It's just a donkey kick, the mule kick.
It just seems like it's. I don't know.
I don't love that because your back's always to your opponent. You're just always trying to kick them from behind. It's just. It's entertaining.
So we have people out there that I want to know more about you, Trevor. So if they want to learn more about you, is ONX Sports the best place, or is there a YouTube video you'd encourage them to watch? Where can we see you being you?
I mean, that's the best way to reach me. And, yes, you can find a whole bunch of stuff on YouTube and stuff from my career as a coach and also from fighting.
We want to buy stuff from you. Our listeners want to buy stuff from you. What can we buy? What kind of things can we – this is an entrepreneurship show. Some of us want to buy books. Some of us want to buy some boxing gloves. What can we buy? We want to buy things from you.
Man, right now, boxing gloves is what we sell. We're actually working on a new glove for the UFC right now, and then also helping them out with their injury problem, and it's all in training. Like, it's crazy to me that 70% of injuries are happening in training, but that's typically how combat sports has been for a long period of time. And if you look at equipment, Let's say NFL. NFL has about a 30% injury in practice. But they also have 52 case studies on equipment. And when you look at boxing and MMA, there's no case studies on equipment. And I feel like that's a big loophole, is they just think that boxers and kickboxers and mixed martial artists are just tough. But, hey, toughen up, just put on this equipment. But it's mass-produced, and they really just don't have any premium stuff out there to keep these guys healthy when they're preparing for fights. But we've released gloves, and unfortunately, we are sold out again. It's our fourth run that we've done, and we've sold out every time. And now we're releasing a full training kit, which will be coming here in about 35 days. It'll be making it here to America, and super cool stuff. It's a good story to sell out, but I always feel bad for all my customers because they're just waiting for the next stuff.
Trevor, it's so many
Good
great
problem to have, I guess, huh?
Yeah. So many great business stories are about a guy or a gal that get involved in a sport or get involved in an activity. And when they get involved, they realize that what's available for them to purchase is not very good. In other words, the guy that started Oakley just sold, I think, for over $1 billion.
Good job.
He got on and he realized that the hand grips on the bicycles weren't that good. So he started off by making hand grips on the bicycles. So do you see yourself making more money in producing goods for the sport or coaching and having a gym for the sport? Where do you see that? And by the way, that is so awesome.
Coaching's always going to be with me. Like, I'm going to coach one or two athletes, and I coach two right now. Like, again, I love to help people out, but I've been doing it for 22 years now, and I've hit every goal that I wanted to hit as a coach. So now it's about reaching new goals and accomplishing new things. So now it's in business. And, man, I'm looking forward to changing the industry and helping the industry that has really helped me change my life.
And that is a lesson for every entrepreneur out there, or every person that wants to be an entrepreneur. Find a problem, make it better, fix it. And that's what you've done with your equipment.
Hey.
You know, you had a problem, you got your mom's sewing machine, and you just started. I love that. I reverse engineered it, and I just started making it.
I've got two more questions I want to ask you here. Conor McGregor. I know nothing about UFC. I don't know a lot about it. It's unbelievable what great shape these athletes are in. I mean, it's just I wince when I watch. I'm like, Can talk to me about the trash talk that's going on during the fight, because you can't on TV you can't see if they're still talking trash while they're throwing haymakers at each other. I would think that you would have to dial that down a little bit while you're throwing haymakers. Have you ever been up ringside with Conor McGregor? Do people still talk to trash while they're amidst the fighting?
You know, it's everybody's different. And Conor McGregor, yes, has built a name off of the trash talk. He's selling fights. And, I always say that you can like one of my athletes, Rose Namajunas, who was the champion at strawweight, one of the most famous female athletes. And she did it by saying, hey, I just want everybody to hug each other. And she's all about facing her own fears and facing something that scares her. And super talented, and has been known because she's such a technician, but she is real about the fear and fighting. So every athlete has a uniqueness to him, and Conor McGregor definitely talks a lot of stuff. But once that cage door closes, all that goes out. It then becomes real, and you can't fight mad. If you fight mad, you make bad decisions. You got to be sharp. And trash talk to me is fake. And when you're talking about someone else and making stuff up, it is truly what you're doing. You're making it up. You're trying to either get yourself ready for the fight, trying to piss the guy off, and that's old boxing tactics, is try to get in their head, make them think about you all the time, and then they lose sleep and lose rest, and you're almost wearing them out without even fighting them. But again, once you're in there, all that goes out the door, and you've got to stay sharp and focused.
Clay, that's why I think you've really missed your mark. With your trash-talking ability, you could have been one of the best.
I could have been.
You could have been.
I missed my college.
You did.
I missed my. See, you know what? That makes me feel bad.
Sad.
Makes me feel bad.
Sad.
Makes me feel sad.
Sad. Bad.
And but then part of me is I feel free, and I feel like this. I don't know. Okay. Now I want to ask you this here, Trevor. Mike Tyson, the famous American boxer. Now he's tours around sharing his story. He has a great quote, and I love this quote. I've used this quote often. In fact, this is the one Mike Tyson quote I ever use. He says, "Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth."
Yeah.
Can you talk to me about that? Because I feel like I might have a plan. You know, Z, I'm getting ready to go into the fight. I'm got myself mentally ready to go. I think I've been watching Mike Tyson's Punch Out. I've been training. I've been eating raw eggs. I've been running around chasing chickens. I've been doing what Trevor Wittman's saying to do, and then I got it all. I got the whole thing working. Z, I'm on fire. I got this energy, and I get in there.
Looking good.
And then all of a sudden I get hit one time. I'm out.
Bam.
Can you talk to me about what that feels like to get just bam, just hit? And how do you keep going, my man?
The key is it's like life. It's like you guys have done businesses. I use it in common day life. You can have a plan in business, but if you are hit with something that you're not used to, you don't have the experience for it, you just got to work through it. And the key is have a plan. But your plan's always going to change, and you just got to be able to adjust. And that's what makes great fighters is how they adjust to adversity. The people who go out there and knock everybody out with the first punch, I mean, that's not a fighter. That's someone who's gifted with explosion. But how do they deal with getting off the canvas? And to me, that's common day life. And it's very easy for you to want to quit in that scenario because as you get up, it's going to be tougher and tougher and tougher. But the key is, the best part about getting knocked down is being able to get back up. And when you go into business or into a fight knowing that you're going to take punches and you're okay with it, that's what you signed up for. I mean, that's the key to success.
Now, what would you've seen a lot of boxers up close, and I'm just trying to think of the boxers that people would know, or the fighter, some of the names that everyone would know. See, the common man, the person who's not really into boxing that would know. Could you share with me, Trevor, is there some guy that you've seen, what boxer or what MMA guy or what kickboxer was truly the most savage, brutal? I think of Mike Tyson, but the guy who just was the technique, the ferocity, they had the whole thing working. What's the boxer you look at or the fighter you look at and go, that is the best I've ever seen?
Like George St. Pierre in MMA and Mike Tyson when he was priming. I mean, having a video game made just about yourself, he was the key in the prime of boxing when heavyweights were great. I mean, you got Cassius Clay and Muhammad Ali. But, again, when you go in there with that sense and you almost seem unstoppable, almost like you're some superhuman. But, again, it's so hard to be perfect. And any one of the greats out there, you're going to see them lose at a certain point. And, again, I love to see people who are talented, and then when they lose, how do they deal with that? And that's where I see the true fighter is if they're able to overcome those scenarios. Because again, one punch will change any fight.
Yeah, Trevor, I know you don't know Clay personally, but from what you know of him, how many rounds do you think he would last against you in the ring?
Don't ask that.
I mean, how many rounds do you think he'd last? Does he? You think he'd get 3?
Man,
127.
That's world class. I was not a world class boxer. I was very talented. I was an amateur, but those guys are world class. One thing about Cassius Clay is he was a great talker. He knew how to sell.
No, I meant you against Clay Clark.
I believe he still holds the record for the longest distance run backwards, which I believe is 24 miles. 24 miles backwards. Just for someone to be able to run 24 miles backwards, that's unique in itself.
Wow. No, I meant Clay Clark, my beautiful.
Oh no! Don't do that.
Beautiful
to me.
man.
No.
Hey, similar names. Hey, to include you guys together, that's a cool thing.
Maybe you and I, Z, together could stay in the ring with Trevor for a minute.
I don't know. I couldn't run backwards for 24 miles, maybe 24 feet.
Now, my final question for Trevor, Z, and then I'll let you wrap it up with whatever you want to ask Mr. Trevor here, because I just want to make sure the listeners out there have adequate time to go to onxsports.com. They got to go there, Z.
Got to go there.
But I got one more question. I know you have one more question as well. When you step into the ring, right, and this is the best way I could picture it. You step in, and this is kind of what the music they're playing on fight nights. They're trying to get that hype energy going. See, they got the lights are going. There's like a fog machine. The other opponent's walking in wearing the hoodie.
Oh, yeah.
Foggers. And there's those scorecard ladies running around.
Yeah.
The room gets dark.
Oh, yeah.
And they get on the mic. And ladies and gentlemen, now wearing the blue shorts from Colorado. It's Trevor Wittman. And when you get out there and the crowd's going, there's that energy. You know what I'm saying? See, the crowd is just absolutely whooping it up. They're getting excited. They're screaming, oh! And then Trevor, right? I gotta ask you, what are you thinking? Like, what's going through your head? Are you going, uh-oh, Are you saying, I'm going to destroy this dude? Are you thinking, I mean, what, do you have a mantra? Are you saying something? I have to get it. Let me inside the cranium.
So I would say when you're in there, that's the best part, is because you're focused when you're in there. The hard part is in the locker room and the whole day prior to the fight, getting your hands wrapped up. Those are the times where you're always second guessing yourself. And that's the hard part. Once you're there, you feel the energy from the crowd. I mean, you're in it. You're focused. It's a traumatic situation, so you have to be honed in. But it's prior to the walk, before seeing the crowd, that's where you're lost in thought with yourself. And again, with all the questions of doubt, how am I going to win? What has that guy been doing differently than me? That's where you will end up beating yourself. But once you're in there, I mean, you feel the energy, and you're focused.
That's awesome.
That's how I felt. I felt when I was in there, I felt focused.
That had to be a little bit of a rush too, right, Trevor?
Oh yeah, and the funny part is I talk to my athletes all the time. It's everybody fears fighting. You fear what the outcome's going to be. But once you're done, win, lose, or draw, once it's over, you're asking when is the next one. There's no rush like it. And again, it's a key to life. Face your fears. If you're facing your fears, once you're done with it, it wasn't that bad. It's always that scenario. It's not that bad. And if you can go and chase life like that, if you fear it, they have Tinder now where you can swipe left, swipe right. But when I grew up, you had to go up and ask a girl's number. And if I was scared to ask a girl's number, and I was afraid to talk to her, I was worried about what she would say. And if you fear things in life, that's the key to life. Is if you fear it, chase it. And then life becomes a fun ride, and you're usually chasing something you want if it scares you.
Okay, Trevor, my last question. You've been in the business of the fighting world for around 20 years or so, from my calculations, right? Plus or minus around 20 years.
Coaching 22 and about 30 years in the game, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, 30 years in the game, but coaching, so the business side of it, I would say, like where you're making the money.
Making the money.
You're making the money for 20 some odd years.
He's making the money.
Making the money. You're making them an offer they can't refuse. If you want to come into my gym, this is what it's going to take.
From Colorado.
I tell you what, I just want my beak wet. I just don't want the whole thing. So if you could go back 20 years or 22 years specifically and have a conversation with yourself as you're beginning the entrepreneur or the business side of the fight world, what would you tell yourself?
Going back 20 years. Here we go. Going back.
I would say one of the keys is don't listen to everybody. A lot of times we have conversations with the people around us, people that love us, but a lot of times I feel like that will break down what you're really trying to chase. What you see, what Picasso painted, he knew what he was going to paint. And if he were to tell someone what he was going to paint, they can't see what he was going to paint. When you tell people what you're going to do, usually it comes with, how are you going to do that? And again, when you keep things to yourself and you don't know you're just driven to face that target, a lot of times when you open up to other people, you're facing how they can't do it. And again, you start to live in a mindset of thought of all that chatter and the drifting of how you're not going to do it. I always say, hey, keep it to yourself and make sure that your circle is strong and the people that you're around are chasing the same things, because a lot of people can hold you back. A lot of times you open up your thoughts to other people, and I feel like everybody's kind of just living in that, well, how and why would you do it differently? And again, everybody's unique to self. Everybody likes different flavors of ice cream, so find out what it is that you like, obsess it, and it's just a destination. Make sure you get there.
No, that's great. Great advice.
Great advice, see. That is great.
Can we use that as tip one? Can we substitute your other tip, signing fight agreements as a juvenile verse?
Yeah, we're going to give him a mega point.
Can we replace this one as tip one?
Stupidest thing to do. But
we give him a mega point. He leaves with a mega point.
Don't break rules, especially with your parents.
All right. Well, Trevor, we appreciate you so much for your time. And this show will be, I know, well received by our listening audience. And, again, we just appreciate all you do. And I'd love to have you on again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I had a blast. You guys are a fun group to talk to.
All right. You take care.
Take care, Trevor.
And now, without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom! Thank you for calling the Thrive Time Show. This is Clavis. How can I help you? Oh, I know how I can help you. You are listening to the podcast, so I should probably teach you something. All right, here's the deal. At the Elephant in the Room, our men's grooming lounge chain, or at OxyFresh, the carpet cleaning franchise that is owned by my partner and friend, Jonathan Barnett, or any of the businesses that I'm involved in or own or I'm a partner with, we record our calls. Now, I thought a great way to explain why we record our calls would be to have Daisy, the flower of the phones, the call center manager, hop on the show. And Daisy, could you explain why we record our calls at the Elephant in the Room?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So it's a great tool for accountability and holding your employees responsible for sticking to a script. And it's a great way to catch any weirdness that might result as a product of not sticking to that script.
Now, we have great customers and great employees, okay? But how often per week, because we have about 4,000 customers that you manage there, how often per week does somebody who's a customer call in and say that they said something that they didn't actually say?
Oh, gosh, at least 5 times a day.
Okay, so 5 times a day, a customer will call in and say that they said something that they didn't say.
Oh, yeah.
And how often do you catch an employee saying they said something that they didn't say?
Probably 6 times a day.
All right. So the reality is you want to know what your people are actually doing. Andrew Carnegie, the world's wealthiest man during his lifetime, who grew up poor and started working at the age of 13, he once wrote, he says, "As I get older, I pay less attention to what men say. I just watch what they do." Well, how are you going to know what your people are doing if you can't hear the calls? If you were a basketball coach, how could you coach the team if you weren't at the game and didn't watch the game? I mean, how could you help your football team get better if you didn't watch the game or at least watch the video of your team at the game? How could you just look at the scoreboard and say, well, guys, we're losing, so we should probably run a new play? No, you've got to actually watch the game. You've got to listen to your calls. Andy Grove, write that name down. Andy Grove, the CEO, the former co-founder of Intel, the microchip people, he says, only the paranoid survive. Only the paranoid survive. Why? Well, Clay, you're not being positive. Well, President Ronald Reagan, okay, Reaganomics, okay. He said, the 40th president of the United States, he said, what did he say? He said, trust but verify. That's huge. So I decided, let's bring Tim on the show. Tim actually works in the call center. He's a great guy. Tim, can you share with the listeners out there, what were you doing before you joined the Elephant in the Room team?
I worked at Reese's Pharmacy.
You worked there and you knew, I believe, Jonathan Kelly, right?
Oh, yeah.
So Jonathan Kelly, who's the manager of all things in the office, was a buddy of yours from your time at Reese's, I believe. And John told me that you'd be a great fit for the team. How did you hear about the job up here?
Jonathan asked me to come in and check it out, and it was actually like a surprise interview for me because
nice.
I had no idea what was going on, and
we didn't let you leave without taking the job.
Yeah, and Jonathan was like, "Yeah, I'll take a half day," and I showed up, and he was like, "All right, so I'm gonna head out, and you're gonna follow Clay around," and I was like, "Doesn't Clay own the company?" And he's like, "Yeah, you're just gonna follow him around."
An ambush job recruitment there. Now, your calls are recorded, and could you share with the listeners how having your calls recorded and being able to hear your own calls has been able to impact you or help you improve?
Oh yeah, it's made a world of difference. When I got here, I was honestly horrendous, which is terrifying because I've been talking to people on the phone for 6 years now for work. So
yeah.
If that's been a constant, I've never listened to my calls until I started here, and I've never had any feedback on it. So
you don't even know if you're doing a good job or a bad job.
No, it's
and you do a really good job now. Could you maybe explain how you've improved? Because I feel like you've made huge improvements. I know you have. But I'd like to hear from your perspective. I know the listeners would too. How have you been able to improve as a result of hearing your calls?
Oh, it's made a world of difference because we have all the recorded calls. We have plenty of information to go off there, and we'll have the group meetings once a week and listen to the calls and hearing my own and mistakes others have made. It's something that I can constantly have in the back of my mind while I'm on the phone about what needs to be done, what shouldn't be done. And it's just, it makes all the difference.
Now, Daisy, what I thought we would do is I thought we would queue up at our expense the worst calls ever.
Oh, no.
Where we're going to cure it, but we won't play a customer's name over the air.
Okay.
And we won't play an employee's name over the air, but we are going to play audio. And I will say this, Tim, you've gotten your energy is better on the phone. Your pacing is better. It sounds great, but it's more marked improvement. How long did it take you to get good at your job, you think, with the calls? Because you do a great job now.
I didn't save the date, but as soon as I got over being so nervous about it, and
30 days? 60 days?
Yeah, less than a month, I would say.
Less than a month. And I will just tell you, if you're out there listening today, what you don't know will absolutely kill you. You see, when you assume it makes a boop out of you and me, when you assume it makes a boop out of you and me, what's that word? What's that sound? When you assume it makes a out of you and me. So Daisy's going to queue up a terrible, not so good, very bad, terrible call. And we're going to break down what's wrong with the call. And you can understand why if you don't record your calls, you're going to lose. If you're a pastor of a church and you don't watch your own praise and worship service and sermons, you will lose. If you are a pastor and you don't watch the youth pastor preach, you will lose. And if you're a football coach and you don't watch the game film, you will lose. And if you're a call center manager and the flower of the phones and you don't record your calls, you will lose. You cannot win if you don't know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening is bad things, terrible things. According to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, 75% of American employees steal from the workplace, and that includes time. Employees sitting around, not answering the phone. Daisy, we have video cameras installed.
Yeah.
Why?
So that we can hold people accountable and make sure they're not doing weird stuff and stealing things.
And one might say, well, Clay, what phone system do you use to record the calls? I use Clarity Voice. CLARITY, Clarity Voice. And you might say, why do you use Clarity Voice? Do they pay you to say that? Well, here's the deal. No, they don't. I use Clarity Voice because it's the best. At OxyFresh, they use Clarity Voice. We use Clarity Voice at Elephant in the Room. Tip Top Canine uses Clarity Voice. It's the best system. It's the best system. Now, here's the deal. I'm so passionate about the system that I've been telling hundreds of people, thousands of people to use Clarity Voice. And then they reached out to me, boop, 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 and they said, hey, we would like for you to be like a sponsor guy, like an endorser guy. Since you refer us all the time, why don't you become like a sponsor guy? So here's how it works. If you go to thrivetimeshow.com/clarity, thrivetimeshow.com/clarity, go slower, I'm using an Etch-a-Sketch. thrivetimeshow.com/clarity, CLARITY. They're going to give you all sorts of free stuff, all sorts of discounts. They can track it, and then I might make some extra money so I can go buy some more Yeezys. All right, so thrivetimeshow.com/clarity. Now let's go ahead and queue up some no good, terrible, very bad, rotten phone calls so you can hear what happens when you don't record your calls.
Thank you for calling Elephant in the Room. This is how may I help you?
Sorry to bother you again. Which room is it in? Or which building?
Oh, I hate listening.
There's like a bunch of stores over here.
There should be an elephant sticker on the window of the office building. Without really looking at it or being able to see what you're looking at, it's kind of hard to tell.
What?
Well, I'm by the stumbling monkey.
Wait for it. Pause. Awkward.
What'd you say?
The stumbling monkey.
Sorry, I'm not able to do my job.
Give me 1 second, man.
So awkward. Now, see, that you could see if you were a customer why you would be frustrated if the person you're calling doesn't even know where you're located. And Daisy, what other kinds of abominations would that particular individual do over and over before we finally had to let him go?
Oh my goodness. So he went in and edited the schedule and did not show up for a shift on Saturday. Told me, oh, I must have gotten the wrong schedule. And I looked back and I was like, I know I don't.
And because we have keystroke recorders and because Google tracks, we were able to see he did what?
He changed his own schedule and tried to make me think he was only scheduled from 12 to 5, which I've never scheduled anyone ever to do.
Right. Tim, is this shocking to you? You worked at Reese's, a great place. Is it shocking to you that an employee would lie about his hours?
Come
on, man.
I would never even consider doing something myself.
Did you ever work with somebody who did fabricate their hours or did do something shady at work? Ever? You work with a bunch of angels?
Yeah, nothing back like that ever happened back in my department, but you hear about stuff like that all the time for sure.
Now, again, is it shocking to you, Daisy, that the call, that at no point did he bring energy? At no point did he really help the guy? Is it shocking to you?
It's painful. It's very, very painful.
Yeah, and I could go sit there and play calls all day, except everyone would be laughing at my expense. It's not cool when you take a customer into the sauna of awkwardness with you where you're like, people, they freak out when there's that silence.
Yeah.
It's just that
they
weird.
Can't handle it.
They can't. They don't want to go in the sauna with you. All they want to know is where you're located. They don't want to have you just breathing on the phone line. So again, if you're out there today and you're not recording your calls, there's a if you don't know what to do, that's like, okay, I didn't know what to do. I'm getting educated. Thank you. That's fine. But if you know what to do and you choose not to do, and I don't care whether you use Clarity Voice. I mean, you should because they're good, but you could use 8x8. That's a great company. Clarity Voice is a great company. 8x8. It's 8x. Let me pull it up here. It's 8x8.com. That's a great company. Okay. Clarity Voice is a great company. But if you know what to do, if you're somebody who understands what to do and you're going, I know what to do, I don't really want to do it. I know what to do. I know to record my calls. I don't want to do it. I'm trying to think of a word that would come to mind. I would think it would be foolish. And then I kind of think of what word means foolish, or a person affected by extreme, the inability to comprehend cause and effect. The kind of person who doesn't know what you're talking about, that person would be defined as an idiot. Now, I'm not saying you, the listener, are an idiot if you don't record your calls. I'm saying that people who don't record their calls are idiots. Not you, other people. So again, if you care about your business at all, Daisy, how often do we catch abominations, crimes against humanity, and jackassery on the phones at the elephant in the room or any of the other clients we work with?
It's literally every single day.
Every single day. List off for me some of the crazy things that you have caught customers saying or our team saying over the years that have caused us to either fire a customer or fire an employee or to make some drastic changes.
They'll make inappropriate remarks. So I had somebody that tried to buy time with one of my employees.
Whoa.
Was trying to bet that he knew what her age was, and if he guessed her age, he would have to give her a gift card, and she would have to be the one to check him out for his haircut at the evening. And then he made this comment that he would prefer for her to call him names.
Wow. Do you mind if we dance with your dates?
What other weird things have you heard customers saying on the phone lines over the years? Just weird stuff where you thought, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't know that life worked this way.
Yeah, they've asked for massages.
Whoa, see, this is what I'm talking. I don't even want to talk about it. Have you ever heard a recorded call where you thought to yourself, I don't even want to talk. You feel shame just by hearing the recorded call.
Yeah, I need a therapy session afterwards. Some of them get pretty weird.
I hear an abomination on the phone lines of either my clients or one of my businesses every single day. And let me tell you what, customers can vote with their dollars, okay? Customers can vote with their dollars. If they're not happy with the service, they can go somewhere else, all right? But also as a business owner, if I'm not happy with the client who's being sexually inappropriate to one of our female stylists, I can punt them too. So again, principles I want you to understand today. You have to record your calls or your business will fall off a cliff called mediocrity. You've got to record your calls or your business will fall off a cliff called mediocrity. Now, what's the company I recommend? I recommend Clarity Voice. How do you get a good deal? Go to thrivetimeshow.com/clarity. thrivetimeshow.com/clarity. Tim, you work in the call center. What's your final justification and reason why you think all the business owners out there should record their calls?
Yeah, if you want to make sure you actually have a good call and don't sound like you're having a panic attack while you're talking to a customer, it'd probably be a good idea to record your calls.
Daisy, what's your final encouragement as a call center manager? How impossible would your job be without recording calls? What's your final tip for the listeners out there as to why they should record their calls.
Well, I just look at Tim. He's like my personal testimony. We literally called him the nervous bomb diffuser for the first 6 months he worked with me. And it's like he went from nervous bomb diffuser to Brad Pitt overnight.
And I used to be the fast-talking, confused guy at my first job. And then they played my calls, and they're like, wow, you talk fast, and wow, you're confused. And so we all have some sort of dysfunction that we can't fix, right?
Absolutely.
If we can't hear the calls.
Absolutely.
So if you're out there today, again, go to thrivetimeshow.com/clarity. And without any further ado, we'd like to end each and every show with a boom. So, Tim, are you ready to bring the boom?
Oh, yeah.
You better,
Daisy, are you
Tim.
prepared to bring the boom?
I'm so ready.
3, 2, 1.
Boom.